The aspects of the sports industry that I like working on the most, I think, is just the ability to do multiple different things. When you talk about working on, at least on the NFL side, there's the league office, there's the league business, and then there's our clubs. There's current and former players working with partners like Nike, uh, Gatorade, and all those, and New Era, and Wilson, and Riddell, and also working with football organizations. So you try to you get a big learning and understanding of how the machine works, and then you try to integrate it and make sure all the touch points are consistent with what the goals are, so that the clubs and everyone can succeed, and we can push our initiatives. And I think that's the beauty of it all. Like it's a complex environment, but I think it's exciting because you get to do so much different types of work. I think playing football, in terms of using the skills that you learned in the football in the sport of football after, every sport says they have teamwork and character and those sort of things, resiliency. But I think football just gives you a specific, unique skill in terms of just accountability. I think delayed gratification is important. Being a part of a team to the extent that it's not about one guy dropping 40 points and all that stuff. And that's what makes football unique. But in terms of off the field, I learned just how to understand process and how to get perspective and how to really, people talk about playing the long game, and you grind for the purpose of grinding, not for an end result that's going to happen that week, that month, that year. And so I think that's the thing I learned the most. And I think just from the game of football itself, just the rigorous structure, their itinerary. I mean, if you could live your life to the extent of preparation, like you're preparing for the Cowboys, preparing for the Bears, whatever, that preparation really helped me as well. And I'm sure other athletes would say something similar to their own degree. But I mean, those are the things that really helped me in terms of using those skills and then using them in the field and off the field as well after the game was over. Playing the game gave me an understanding of the business from a player's perspective. And when you're a player, you just understand things that affect you. Obviously, the football operations, the coach-player relationship, equipment managers, trainers, and how that small ecosystem helps you to succeed. But on the business side, you understand like sponsorship and marketing and the fan growth and some of the broader organizational goals. And I think it's truly important that everything has to exist equally in order for the game to succeed, the teams to succeed, players to succeed. And you'll find that there's just certain organizations that always are going to be successful because I think top to bottom, they're doing everything right and they're working in a cohesive unit. So by the time I walked into this building, I did have an understanding and a respect that everyone has a job to do. And it wasn't so much of a, well, I played, so I know the game, but then there's a whole business side that players don't know. And I think that's been the most beneficial thing for me in terms of success in this building. And it's a learning that always continues. You don't just learn it in one shot. Like the landscape is always changing and always growing. But obviously having that conversational piece to understand, former players that I played with that become head coaches and people that work on the personnel side and people that didn't play in the NFL that just maybe played in college. I think there's value there, just understanding the game in which you serve. So I always say that football gave me more than I could ever give back. And it's always an honor to serve the game in an administrative capacity, having played on the field. Growing up with a single mom, in the District of Columbia, at a time, in an urban area where it was really a kind of I wouldn't say a tough upbringing, but there were challenges. But the reality in the world that I knew, that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. And so I definitely look up to my mom as inspiration and it's seeing her, come to this country from Cameroon, then bring me over once she got established, working, going to school at night, taking, working 40 hours a week and taking 18 credits a semester to get her undergrad and an MBA. I mean, that was really inspirational to me because it just taught me a work ethic, and that life work ethic kind of helped me become a better football player because it gave me perspective about like how to set goals at the beginning and the end of a season, for example, at the beginning and end of your education, graduating, finishing the degree, because I saw my mom do it. So she always said, if I have an MBA, like you at least have to get a master's degree. So that was always inspirational to me. So when I became one of the first players in the NFL in a 10-year span during that period of the late 90s into 2000, I was one of the only players that actually got a master's degree. And I'm using a program that was really designed to help players who maybe left early for the draft, that they could finish their degree. I used it to get a master's. And so it was my mom really the inspiration of like just really completing something to a higher level than what's really just expected of you normally. When you talk about the football landscape, I still get inspired from, Mike Tomlin, who's the head coach of the Steelers, and we're the same age. I've seen him grow as a coach. He was an assistant coach on the Buccaneer staff when I was with the Buccaneers for those 2 seasons. I get inspired by people like Tony Dungy, the first African American head coach to win a Super Bowl. I also get inspired by people in the business world, Robert Smith, and not just African Americans, but a lot of people that are just leaders in their respective professions. There's been 46 presidents. We still only talk about 4 or 5 of them. So having a title, a high title versus being a leader, I think is 2 different things. So I really look to a lot of the just high successful leaders, because you can learn something from them. What do they read? What do they eat? How do they carry themselves? How do they spend the first 30 minutes of their day? People talk about exercise and the value of getting enough sleep, and those things you just can't ignore. Obviously, there's a lot more technology and things like that than there was 20 or 30 years ago. But I think you still have people that read a newspaper, that read headlines, that dedicate the first hour of the day to like improving themselves before the world happens and everything's on your phone, your news feed. I do get inspiration from that. People that have really succeeded on a high level, people that have come from rare circumstances to become successful, and obviously people that are continuing to, and a lot of young people I think this next generation is in great shape, because you have a lot of young people that are leading in just different ways than I would have even imagined when I was younger. Fun. I have well, at this stage, these last few years, and in the next year and a half or so, I have a son in college who RJ goes to Duke, and he's on the football team, is a great student, a student athlete. And then I have a younger son who's in high school now, who's getting recruited and going through that process. So spending a lot of time with the boys and my family, and that kind of gives me a lot of joy, and just serving my family. I don't have hobbies per se in the traditional sense. I'm not a golfer. I'm not I don't know. I know guys that go to like barbecue camp or something every summer and do this man thing, and I've never really subscribed to that. And maybe by the time my younger son goes to college, I'll start to do some of those types of things. But it's fun. Like, it's just fun being with my family and just relaxing. Like, we go on vacation, I just want to do 1,000 things and rock climbing and all this other stuff, but they just want to relax. So I'm always like, go, go, go. But like, I do enjoy just spending time at home with the family. Young talent or young resumes, and college students and such that want to get into the sports business or want to get into the NFL. And I think there's some intrinsic traits that I see, and obviously your experience is important. I think it's important to work in a college athletics department. I think it's important to understand game day, all the things going on game day, all the things going on administratively, on the field, off the field, like some of the things that I had to learn and appreciate as a player. But I think it's also important to show, like, has this student, this potential candidate, have they really maximized their opportunities? Have they engaged in experiences that weren't just laid out for them? What have they done above and beyond? Like, for example, you can join an organization, but did you lead that organization? Did you write articles for the new student newspaper? Did you volunteer X number of hours a month, a week, a year towards a specific cause that's important to you? I think those are the things, because that speaks to the integrity of the person and not just what's on paper. And obviously, when you have conversations and you talk to kids and younger adults about what's important to them, it's always important to see what's really important to them underneath, and not just working in the sports business, and not just getting a job. Like, what problem are you trying to solve? How do you think you can contribute to this landscape and make the world better based on how you think and how you process? I love critical thinkers, because I think that's what really changes the world going forward. Advice I would give to young athletes or young professionals in the sports industry is that don't underestimate the value of just process and perspective and just getting experience and just learning how to do the work. I think a lot of the culture now is very end result focused. I'm doing this so that I can be here in 2 years, so I can get a promotion, so I can become a CEO, so I can. Well, everyone wants to be a CEO, but not everyone has the emotional intelligence to get to that level. And if you can maximize yourself within the work that you're doing now, learn how to create efficiencies. And for example, if your boss or your manager gives you 10 things to do, you don't just, okay, give me another 10. Do those and go to the next 10. No, say, out of these 10 things I completed, what did I learn about myself during this process? What did I learn about how to create efficiencies? Does that help us do things differently in our unit and our small group, our staff? And then that goes back to the critical thinking piece. And so you just can't underestimate the value of the type of work that you're doing. It could be folding boxes, game day, selling flyers, or whatever that is, selling game day magazines in the parking lot for which is a lot of the grunt of the work. You have to do some of those things so that you can actually get the perspective and then lead others and teach others and then grow, do more, manage more, and then become better leaders. So I would say, people say this a lot, like you have to write your goals down, and there's a percentage of people who succeed because they write their goals and all that stuff. But I think it's more important to just try to just master where you are now and maximize just being a leader. I've seen interns, I've worked with interns. I said, this person's going to be a leader as they grow into their career. They're going to lead, not just do the job. And there's no secret formula for that. It comes back to how you think, how you process things. I can't underestimate the value of thinking critically. And a critical thinker doesn't just ask 1,000 annoying questions to everyone that they work with, but it's more about there's a process in which you're doing something, and that's where you learn about yourself. And obviously, no every CEO or high level person has a story. I have my story growing up in DC, single mom, growing up in the urban area, and all that stuff. And you see people that have come through, wars, the Holocaust, and things like that, and then just achieve high success. But sometimes we celebrate that. Not everyone that grows up in the urban area is going to be successful. That's, not everyone that has some adversity. Some people live in that adversity and never climb out of it emotionally. So, and then, on the other hand, some people who have really successful parents become successful because they had guidance and they had perspective. But some people that have successful parents don't do as well as their parents. They don't go to college. They have so many options that they don't choose one path to go down so they can learn about themselves. So there's no clear-cut formula to success. But again, I always say, like, don't be so end result focused as it is important to be like process focused. Because within that process is where you learn about yourself. You learn what you like, what you don't like. You learn how to deal with different people. And nowadays, with the diversity discussion, you have to deal with people and work and get along with people that don't look like you, that don't believe in what you believe in. They didn't vote for who you voted for, so to speak. And so that's how we actually make the world better. And that's how you really grow, in my opinion, as a leader.